Good afternoon. Welcome to Project Review Committee for November 2nd, 2022. We're going to go ahead and start today's meeting at 1:34 p.m. We'll go ahead and do roll call for city staff here. We're joined by myself, Oscar Cepeda, the Associate Planner in the Planning Division. We're also joined by Jeff O'Neill, the Interim City Planner. We're also joined by Rocio Mejia, the Interim Assistant Planner. We're also joined by Jason Reidenauer, the Assistant City Manager and Community Development Director. We're also joined by James Wickersham, the Chief Building Inspector. We're also joined by Brianna Spry from Field Services. We're joined by Robert Alvarez from the Water Division. And we're also joined by Clayton Dignam from the Fire Department, or Fire Marshal. And lastly, we're joined by Javier Sanchez, the Engineering and Project Management Director. Okay. Now, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open oral communications. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the committee on any matter pertaining to project review. Seeing that there are no other members of the public attending, I'm going to go ahead and close oral communications. With that, we're going to go ahead and start with the only item on today's agenda, which is Project Review Committee number 2022-030 for Dairy Works. We have applicant Charles David Goss attending here, and the applicant is proposing a change in occupancy for Dairy Works located at 749 North Plano Street. Let me go ahead and share my screen here to pull up the site. Sorry. So as far as Charles, are you able to give us a little bit more of information as far as the operation of the new use?
Well, we're a 24-hour dairy service maintenance company. So the use is for storage, small fabrication, but mostly it's all of it's for storage. All of our work is done out in the field. We have our own trucks. All the employees take their own trucks home, and we kind of meet up in the morning, grab parts, and take off again.
Sounds good.
Just real quick, so with when you say minor welding and fabrication, can you elaborate just a little bit? Is it just you're welding, parts and pieces here and there, or are you fabricating, like if you get a new truck, you're going to fabricate the flatbed and stuff like that?
No, it's just parts here and there.
Okay.
When we get new trucks, we do mount stuff in the trucks, oxygen, acetylene bottles and stuff like that, but
okay,
nothing crazy.
Okay, and then you're going to be storing some of the vehicles inside?
Just the ones that are not used. I think there's just one right now that's not being used.
Okay.
Thank you. As far as from a planning standpoint, comments, the use is a permitted use within that zone district, which is a business service use. The zone district does allow those uses, is permitted by right. I don't see, or if there are any modifications to the exterior, we want to make sure that we comply with our development standards. Any new signage proposed for the business, make sure we've complied with Chapter 305 of the development ordinance. This zone district allows up to 3 square feet of signage per 1 linear feet of building frontage. You're allowed wall signs, freestanding signs, monument signs, marquee, awning, and canopy signs. Any outdoor storage areas shall be screened from the right of way. That's pretty much it from our end. Any parking areas, make sure they're striped. I know that you've identified some existing parking there. Make sure that they're clearly striped for your vehicles.
Okay.
But other than that, that's our comments from planning are pretty standard for the development. Next, we're moving along with building with James.
So are you guys planning on doing any construction type work to the building?
No.
The only thing I put was like,
Well, there just the bathrooms need to be updated and the office area for the secretaries, but that was it.
So when you say updated, you plan on remodeling those completely?
New toilets and fixtures, yeah, and sinks,
Oh, so
paint.
just the maintenance
Yeah.
on that, okay. Okay, yeah, it is a change of use, occupancy. It's a mixed use now, so that's kind of why we're here. If you're not doing any work, to it, then I don't see anything that I would call out. I know Clayton might have something that coincides with the building, with the building codes too. So that would be it for me.
Thank you, James. Next, going back with fire department with Clayton.
So essentially, based on what's being proposed and the size of the structure, fire sprinklers would be required. So we would need calculations and then monitoring plans, which is basically fire alarm monitoring plans for the sprinkler system. The fire department connection for the sprinkler system is required to be placed within 50 feet of a fire hydrant in an approved location. There is a fire hydrant on the property line to the south, which also helps with the next requirement. Where conditions permit, the FDC is to be located no closer than 40 feet from the building. So when they design that, they may run that FDC over and just put it right behind that fire hydrant. We'll put an address sign on it so we know what it's connecting to. All hazardous material handling, use, and storage shall comply with Part 5 of the 2019 California Fire Code. Basically, your compressed gases, any other, oxyacetylene, anything that you guys are going to have or use associated with your business just needs to make sure that you're handling it, using it, and storing it in compliance with the fire code. We will require a Knox box for the building for access and Knox padlocks on any swing gates. And if you have an electronic gate, we would just want a Knox keyed switch, which allows us access to the rear of the building without having to cut through doors, cut through gates, fences, things like that. Fire extinguishers shall be placed to comply with the currently adopted edition of the California Fire Code. Address numbers should be posted on the building and visible from the street. And so that also brings up, depending on when you submit for any building permits or anything like that, we're going through a code cycle change. And typically what we do is, once the new code is adopted, you would fall under the new code, but you would currently, if you submitted before the end of the year, you're going to fall under the old code, which is the 2019 code. The other thing, just as a note, that building had some demolition work done to the interior, and I'm not sure of the electrical condition. So you're going to probably want to engage in a licensed electrician to take a look at the wiring before you go and start doing, any modifications or adding or anything like that. And then any additions that you do as far as wanting to add electrical for outlets, drops, anything like that from the ceilings or walls, that would all require permits as well.
So Clayton, I have a question, if you don't mind. You called out sprinklers for the use.
Yes.
Is there any modifications that could occur with some of the operations that would not dictate fire sprinklers being required?
So based on its occupancy classifications, it's going to be a combination. It's a multi occupancy. So you've got a B, you've got an F1, and you've got an S1. The S1 is the truck storage. The storage of commercial vehicles requires fire sprinklers in anything over 5,000 square feet. If you remove the S1 component and you just have an F1 and a B, the square footage is increased to 12,000, which would not require fire sprinklers at that time.
So what I'm hearing, if I could translate, is if he does not store his commercial vehicles inside the building, that he would not need fire
They
sprinklers.
cannot have vehicles parked, stored, worked on in there, you know, like, I mean, without having the fire sprinklers. That's correct. If they do their storage outdoors, no harm, no foul.
Okay.
We could do that.
Okay. So then it would be, yeah, we would just, what we would need is an updated proposal showing that that has been removed, and then during inspections, if we don't find that, then the fire sprinkler situation is removed for the occupancy classification. The only thing to be concerned with, and again, it doesn't sound like you do a high volume, but depending on your hazardous material storage and handling, that could also trigger, but it doesn't, based on what you're telling me, it doesn't sound like you do a high volume of storage and use with hazardous materials.
Correct.
Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah,
that
we
would-
could. We can remove the truck from inside. It's just.
Okay.
It's outside now. I just put it on
Yeah,
there
and-
just in case, but.
Yeah, and I just go based on what's proposed. So when I
Okay.
look at this and see that, then I have to give you worst case scenario.
Right, okay.
But going back to Clayton's point on the electrical, he's still correct on that we would want somebody to get in there and licensed to make sure that, you know, because of what was there before illegally, just to make sure that everything's safe before we release power to release clearance for power for Edison.
And it sounds like based on your model, you're probably going to want to do workbenches and ceiling drops for electrical, so you have access for your tools and stuff. So all of that would come under an electrical permit anyway.
Correct.
And that's pretty much it. What I will do is I will separate my notes based on the way it's proposed. I'll put the fire sprinklers down. If, you know, hey, if you choose in the future, or if you choose as you discuss this project to move forward, at least you'll know that. But without the S1 component, there wouldn't be any fire sprinklers.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you, Clayton. Next with engineering with Javier.
All right, thanks, Oscar. For engineering, depending on if you planning, are you planning to just move in, or are you planning to remodel the
No, it's
area?
just move in.
Okay,
Just move in and then just, you know, paint and clean up as we go, because we are
Okay.
hardly ever at the shop, so.
all right. Because, yeah, and the reason I asked that is if there's a certain amount of work done on site, then once you cross a certain threshold, which is around $26,000, then we start looking at if any public improvements need to be performed in order to make things compliant, or if there are, you know, broken sidewalk and such like that. You know, in this area, it looks pretty clean. So we would have just made comment if, like for accessibility purposes, really. So if you plan to move in, you won't be impacted. So I'll just throw it out there as is. If you do plan to do something in the future, it would, we just be looking where you fall on that side of the threshold. And then separately, as we were looking into the leasing of this, it's looking like you couldn't do a partial lease unless this has specific parcels. And I believe this is one entire parcel, right?
That is one complete, well, we're only leasing the front building and the sidewalk area. That's it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Not
what's
the
cool.
side building or the dirt.
Oh, so just the building?
Just the front sidewalk building and the concrete around it.
Yeah. They're listed as separate.
Okay. I'm awaiting a response from our surveyor and so I'll provide that in the comments, and that if a partial lease isn't allowed because it's one entire parcel, it would require that you'd lease everything, or you'd have to create a parcel map to create a specific parcel. That would be specific to what you're looking to lease.
I see. Well, I know they're listed separate, so I'm not too sure.
Okay, so I'll dig into that and include it in the comments, but it just as a heads up that it may look like it's going that way. Besides that, that's all engineering has.
Thank you, Javier. Next with field services with Brianna.
My only request for refuse service would be a 3-bin enclosure. The state is requiring recycling and organics recycling for every business. And that enclosure would need to be a direct stab for the trucks to come in.
Okay.
And I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Brianna. Next with Robert.
The only comment I have is whether there's going to be any landscaping to the building. If there is, and we may have to look into separating the landscape and the domestic water usage.
As far as taking down the weeds? Or, I
You
mean,
mean
as
like
far as
watering
versus-
grass and all that stuff?
Yes.
No, it's gonna be, those trees are gonna be pulled out and rocked in.
If they can be.
I didn't want to mow any yards or trim any trees, so I was just gonna pull it all out.
Okay. Yeah,
As-
that's all the comment I had. Yeah.
As far as the landscaping, we would have to maintain that area landscaped from the planning standpoint.
From the what?
From the planning division, the area in front of the building would have to remain landscaped.
Okay.
Of course, if you want to switch out some shrubs, plants, and trees, we can. We just have to comply with the latest codes from as far as those species being drought tolerant. And as Robert mentioned, separating those services. I think that's all from staff. Is there any questions that the applicant has for staff?
Not right offhand. We'll resubmit that new thing without the S1. And I believe the owner has already had an electrician sign off on that building, and we're just waiting for the city to okay it, and so we can get the power turned on over there, but that was it.
So the owner has like a statement from a licensed electrician?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, if you could provide that to me, that'd be great.
Okay.
And Charles, we'll compile today's meeting's comments from each department in a letter to be mailed out to the applicant in about 2 weeks from today's meeting.
Okay.
So with that, we're gonna go ahead and end today's PRC meeting at 1:54 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.